What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another UFC breakdown and predictions video, this time for UFC Vegas 97, Burns versus Brady. And we are coming back from a week off, but we're returning to the Apex, which sucks, but nevertheless, we're back in action. We got some fights on Saturday, and we have UFC 306 right around the corner to look forward to as well. So, there's actually a pretty good amount of decent fights on here to look forward to. So even though it is in the Apex, we got a couple of bangers to look forward to that we will be breaking down as well. Finished up that recap video not too long ago. It is like 2:30 in the morning, so I'm going to try my best to break down everything to the best of my abilities. I was going to type out notes, but I'm just going to wing it. Hopefully we can get all of our points across. We have all of our picks for this week, so let's get into it. Make sure you like the video, drop a comment down below what you think of UFC Vegas 97 and your picks, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let's start off the card with a Ultimate Fighter matchup. Zigomanis Ramaska is going up against Nathan Fletcher. These two were supposed to fight 2 weeks ago at UFC Vegas 96, but there was a medical issue apparently on the Nathan Fletcher side. From what I'm hearing, it was staph infection, but I think like both of them had staph infection or something along those lines. But it did say that it was a Fletcher medical issue, but nevertheless, 2 weeks later, they are back to fight each other. Now, you got Ramaska on one side, and he is a wild guy. On the feet, he throws heat. I didn't even mean to rhyme there. That was kind of corny. But nevertheless, he actually does throw heat. He has lots of power in his hands, and he has technique on the feet, but he can be wild at times, which causes him to be hittable. And even though he has a decent skill set on the mat, he would typically prefer to strike. Now, on the Nathan Fletcher side, there is no denying that he wants to wrestle his opponents. He does well getting the back of his opponents as well. I should say. And he does a good job finding that choke, and he might actually be able to do that here against Ramaska. But I've seen Fletcher in his fights get tagged. In his only loss, he ended up gassing out into the third round of that fight and then got finished, I believe, in the third round. So if he can't implement his wrestling game plan, even if he can, he does have a tendency to gas a little bit. I've seen too many times he telegraphs those takedowns, and he is very hittable in those entries, and I've seen him hurt multiple times throughout his fights because of that reason. And I think somebody like Ramaska is going to find the timing to probably throw a knee up the middle, uppercut, something of that nature to hurt Nathan Fletcher during one of his entries. So I am actually going to pick Ramaska to get this done. I believe he's an underdog, so we're starting off the card with a dog. Regardless, I think Ramaska gets this done. He was supposed to be in the finale against Santos, but he had a fracture in his face. I don't know if it was his cheekbone or his jaw, but he was not medically cleared to fight for, was it supposed to be the semifinal fight? I think it was supposed to be the semifinal fight to get to the final. He was supposed to fight Santos, but the UFC's like, that's a bummer. We're still going to put you on a UFC fight night. And then on the Nathan Fletcher side, he lost to Khan Offley, who fought in the finale against Santos. And as we know, Offley got knocked out. But Nathan Fletcher, after his fight, it showed he had a medical x-ray, a medical meeting with the doctor, and he actually had a broken leg. So that's another reason why I'm a little hesitant on the Fletcher side, because I don't know if that's fully recovered yet. And I know Ramaska also had a broken bone. So this is a toss-up, honestly. And in a toss-up, I like going with the dog, who has a chance of winning as well. So Ramaska's the pick. Let's continue. We got Andrade Petroski going up against Dylan Budka. Now, this is basically two identical fighters. They want to do the exact same thing. They want to wrestle. They want to put that wrestling pressure on their opponent, control them on the ground, and try to work for either a TKO finish or a submission. It doesn't always come to fruition. As we saw in Petroski's last fight, it was like a do or die for him, so he kind of just like hung on to Josh Fremd that entire fight and just made sure that he won. Dylan Budka fought Cesar Almeida in his UFC debut, and as soon as he realizes that he can't implement his wrestling game plan or take down his opponent, he gasses and gets finished. That's exactly what happened in the Cesar Almeida fight. Now, Andrade Petroski is way too big of a favorite for me to do anything with it. I am not nearly as confident as some people might be on the Petroski side, but I think he gets it done because these two are basically identical fighters, and Petroski is the better version out of the two. Now, he is 9 years older, but 33 is still not over the hill in my opinion. I think my mic is so badly set up. It's like leaning and shit. But yeah, Petroski, just a better version of Budka in my opinion. And I think he's going to be able to get it done. So I got to fix my mic. 1 second. I'm trying to attach it to my desk here. Uno secundo. Oh no. I'm loosening it by accident. Alright. No wonder it was leaning. It was about to fall off. Alright. I was hoping we didn't stretch this on. But Petroski's the pick. Let's move on to the third fight of the night. We got Jacqueline Amorim. I think I misspelled her name here in the graphic. Don't mind me. Like I said, it's 2:30 in the morning. Hopefully I didn't mess up anything else. But we got Jacqueline Amorim going up against Vanessa Demopolous. And I'm going to pick Amorim here because I think she has more of a danger factor. I know Vanessa lives up to her nickname. I think it's like Little Monster or something like that because she is constantly looking to do damage, constantly pushing the pace, and she's the one always bringing the fight to her opponents. But I just think Amorim has more of a danger factor. She has real power. She has awesome grappling to get Vanessa in some tricky submission attempts, some tricky spots in general in the grappling as well. And I don't want to be a hater because it's not Vanessa's fault, but these decisions are just, they're wild. The wild decisions. The Emily Ducote fight, wild. She got outstruck in that fight, and there was no, I'm just going to pull up the stats here so that we can see it. There was no takedowns, nothing. Emily Ducote landed 143 strikes to Vanessa's 109, and it was a split decision for Vanessa. So, got outstruck by almost 30, okay? Before that, the Kanako Marotte fight got outstruck by 3 strikes throughout that fight, 34-31, and got taken down 5 times. And she won that fight, apparently. The Karolina Kowalkiewicz fight, she got her ass kicked. There was no question about that loss. The Maria Oliveira fight, she knocked down Maria Oliveira but got outstruck by almost 30. But she did land 2 takedowns, so that's okay. Split decision for the Jin Yu Fry one, that's okay as well. I think she won that fight. And if you go to the Silvana Gomez-Suarez fight, she caught a Hail Mary armbar submission halfway through the first after getting absolutely destroyed with, I believe, a right hand by Silvana Gomez-Suarez. But regardless, it's mostly those last 2 fights in a row. Extremely questionable. I don't think she won those fights. I don't blame her. I blame the judges. But regardless, I don't think that happens here. I think Amorim has way more of a danger factor, as I already mentioned. I think she is the one out of the 2 fighters that has the potential to finish the fight. And I think that's going to sit well with the judges. So I'm going to pick Amorim to get this done. And she's 29 to Vanessa's 35. And we all know that after like 34-ish, 35 is getting up there, and especially in women's MMA. So I'm going to favor Amorim in this matchup. Let's keep rolling. We got Gabriel Santos going up against Yizha or Yizha. I don't know how to pronounce that name, man. But we got Gabriel Santos. And even though came into the UFC 10-0 and he's lost back-to-back fights, I am going to be picking him here. I'm pretty sure he has ballooned up to a pretty big favorite, and for good reason. He is dangerous basically anywhere the fight goes. He has power in his hands, and if he does end up getting taken down, he has the threat in the grappling department as well. He is coming off a loss to David Onama. Got knocked out in the second round, but Onama hits like a freaking animal. And his UFC debut, I believe, on short notice, fighting Lerone Murphy, who I'm pretty sure is coming off of an absolute destruction of Edson Barbosa. And it was a split. Like, it was arguably Santos' fight. I rewatched that fight, and that you couldn't. There's an argument. Obviously, a judge had it. One of them had it for Santos. There's an argument that he won that fight, and that's pretty impressive against somebody like Lerone Murphy. Now, Yizha is a wrestler through and through. He's going to want to wrestle and keep wrestling some more. I think that Gabriel Santos is going to be miles ahead on the feet, and that's no exaggeration. And like I said, if he does end up getting taken down by Yizha, who has relentless takedown pressure, this guy will just keep shooting. He'll fake something over the top, go down, shoot for a double leg. He'll try to take you down in any way possible, put you up against the cage, clinch, throws, trips, double legs, single legs, doesn't matter. This guy will, if it has a possibility of landing a takedown, he'll try it. But I don't think it's going to work against Gabriel Santos. I'm pretty high on Santos this week. I don't know if he's like my highest confidence pick, but I think he's going to be able to get this done. Let's move on to the next fight. We got Andrade Lima going up against Felipe dos Santos. And I don't like when the UFC does this, when there's two exciting young guys, Andrade Lima 25, Felipe dos Santos 23, and they put them up against each other so early in their UFC career. Let them get some wins first before putting them up against each other, because both these guys have that fun, exciting style as well that people are going to want to watch. So maybe we match them up a little bit later. But regardless, we got the fight now. This is actually a pretty good fight. We got Andrade Lima on one side, who is a fantastic striker, very technical, very patient, and he's got great counter-striking, which is a big reason why I'm going to pick him in this matchup. Felipe dos Santos is your classic shoot-the-box fighter. As you can tell, he looks like them. They print them out there. They're carbon copies of each other. But those guys out in shoot-the-box are very hittable. And even though Felipe has that high-pressure style that Lima might not like as much, Lima does a fantastic job countering, and he has power. Felipe is going to bring the fight to him, and I think that is going to actually play into Lima's advantage for this fight because of his counter-striking. Now, Felipe dos Santos, these guys out in shoot-a-box have fantastic grappling, and striking isn't really, it's not their like number one skill set. It is the grappling, but typically they're not going to be shooting takedowns as much or trying to even get the fight to the ground. They have the grappling in their back pocket, but they want to bang on the feet. They want to brawl, throw hands, and I don't think that's going to be a good idea for Felipe in this matchup here. Andrade Lima's shown that he has some decent takedown defense as well, and he can get up back to his feet. One of the things that stresses me out, though, is he loves to grab the fence. I've rewatched his UFC fights, and he loves grabbing the fence. And why that's an issue is because I don't want there to be too many of these fence grabs and him do it like not unnaturally, but like out of habit or something, and then get a point taken away, and then we're going to be puckering our butt cheeks to see if he ends up winning, if he gets a point taken away. Regardless, I think Andrade Lima lands the bigger shots in this matchup. He might not like that forward pressure from Dos Santos, but I think he's going to pick his spots well. He's going to counter well, and he also has awesome leg kicks. We see that throughout his career, especially in his last fight against Mitch Raposo, which was, in my opinion, the turning point. I don't know how to explain it. That was the big factor in that win for him, was those leg kicks, and I think he's going to be able to chew up Dos Santos' leg kicks as well. I think Andrade Lima gets it done, probably on the scorecards. Let's move on to the next fight. Isaac Dulgarian going up against Brendan Marotte. I'm not going to spend too much time here. I think Isaac Dulgarian is the biggest favorite in UFC history. I don't know what he is now, but it's got to be like minus 2,000 and something at this point. I think this fight is the judges messed up big time in your last fight against Christian Rodriguez. Let's get you a winnable fight that you can probably win in exciting fashion and get yourself back in favor with the fans. Well, actually, to be honest, I don't think he lost favoritism with the fans, because all the fans know that he didn't lose his last fight. regardless. I think he finishes Marotte at some point in this fight. The reason why I'm not going to be screaming for the hills like he's going to do it in the first round is because, like, a lot of people are like, he's just going to run through Marotte probably in the first round. And I don't doubt it. He might. But the thing I'm worried about is the reason why he ended up losing the fight with Christian Rodriguez is because of how badly he gassed throughout the first 2 rounds and in that third. So he might take it a little bit easier in the first round and preserve some energy so that he can keep up that relentless pace in the later rounds. So that may be where his head's at. I don't know where it is. He probably finishes it early, but the reason why I'm not going to be like full confidence on the first round finish is because of his last fight and why he ended up losing. So Isaac Dulgarian by domination. Let's move on to the next fight. We got Ovin St. Preux taking on Ryan Spann. This is the featured fight of the night. And we got a 41-year-old Ovin St. Preux who is coming off of a pretty solid win against Kennedy and Zechiku, but he's going up against Ryan Spann. And I think Ovin's performance last time is more of like a one-off. I don't think this is going to be a resurgence for OSP at 41. I don't know why he's still fighting. But he's going up against Ryan Spann, who is not a trustworthy guy, somebody that you can't really put your confidence in because he finds ways to lose. And I don't know if that's because he like quits or something. I don't know what it is, man, but sometimes he lacks urgency. Like I said, sometimes he quits. Sometimes, like, I don't know. Some people say he has good cardio, but maybe he slows and he doesn't have that urgency because he's losing cardio throughout the fight. I don't know what it is, but he should honestly get this done. He's got some decent power. He's a huge human being, 6'5". Yes, OSP is 6'3", and OSP actually has a longer reach. But I think Ryan Spann just gets this done, probably by KO TKO. He'll probably land a big shot that OSP doesn't like. OSP maybe covers up and he's like, gets to a point where he's like, all right, I'm too old for this. I'm not getting knocked out. Ryan Spann will it'll probably be like a volume-based TKO. I don't think he like puts OSP out cold, but Ryan Spann also has that grappling threat as well. And I just think at 33 compared to a 41-year-old, he's probably going to have the better cardio in this matchup as well. And even though OSP is coming off of a win against Kennedy, like I said, I think that's more of a one-off and more of an issue on the Kennedy and Zechiku side as opposed to OSP having like a career resurgence. Ryan Spann's coming off 3 losses in a row. Like I said, I can't be confident in this guy. I picked Bogdan Guskov last time because I couldn't trust either of them. And it's not that I couldn't trust either of them. I just had low confidence on the Ryan Spann side. And even though that is the same case here, I still think he gets it done. I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but I think Spann beats a 41-year-old OSP. Let's move on to the main card for UFC Vegas 97. Make sure you hit that like button. Drop a comment down below with your thoughts on this card and any particular matchups. And subscribe to the channel if you are new. And tell me what you guys think about these new graphics. I thought they were pretty dope. A lot more informative than my previous videos, that's for sure. Starting off the main card, we got Rongzhu going up against Chris Padilla. And I'm going with Padilla here. I had notes on Rongzhu, but I'm going to try to pull it out of the memory. So Rongzhu likes to strike in the first round, I'm finding. Kind of feel it out and then mix in takedowns in the later, like second and third rounds. He likes to mix it up. Kind of maybe the first round feel out his opponent, see if he can just beat them on the feet. But then if he finds some resistance, he will mix in that wrestling. And at 24 years old, having 30 fights is crazy. It's a crazy amount of experience. But he's a pretty good fighter. And then you got Chris Padilla on the other side who just wants to move forward, get you down to the ground, and either find a submission or try to finish you. And he has cardio to do it for an entire 15 minutes. He came in on short notice for his UFC debut and submitted James Yontop in the first round. And I don't know if you guys have seen, whoever's watching this, if you watched my breakdown with the James Lontop fight against Chris Padilla, I just blindly picked Lontop. But prior to the event, on my Twitter, which I encourage you guys to follow, Limpy Bets, 2 Ys at the end of Limpy, I ended up betting on Padilla because I had some weird feeling about Lontop and his weight miss, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Padilla ended up getting it done, and I think he gets it done here as well. Rongzhu fights emotionally, and what I mean by that is he gets frustrated if his opponent is being too patient. He tries to make a note of shots not hurting him, and I think he's just too in his head when he fights. And not saying he's not a good fighter, clearly he is. But this is his second stint in the UFC. His first stint, he went 1-2. The only win he had was against Brandon Jenkins, I want to say, who took it on short notice. Rongzhu also missed weight. Lost to Rodrigo Vargas in his UFC debut. Lost to Ignacio Bahamondes in his third fight, where he also missed weight. But I'm not going to blame him too much for losing to Bahamondes because Bahamondes is actually a very good fighter who is fighting on the Sphere card next week or the week after, whatever. But yeah, basically, I just think that Chris Padilla is going to be able to find the takedowns. And yeah, I had more written out on both of these guys. But I think Padilla's a dog. I think he's just going to be able to implement his game plan better than Rongzhu. I think that Padilla should try to wrestle sooner rather than later in this fight because I do think that Rongzhu's striking is a little cleaner. Regardless, I'm going with the dog here, Chris Padilla, to get it done. Maybe by submission. I will say by submission. Let's move on to a lightweight banger. Trevor Peek taking on Yanal Ashmouz. Now, when I was looking through this card originally, I was going to pick Yanal Ashmouz to get this done. But then I watched some tape, and you know what? I'm picking Trevor Peek. I'm picking Trevor Peek to get it done. And the reason why I'm doing that is because Yanal Ashmouz he's very patient in the sense that he tries to find the reads on his opponents early, and it leads him to be kind of low volume. And if you're going up against somebody like Trevor Peek, you need to you have to be kind of like a high volume dude that's ready to bang with Trevor Peek because Trevor Peek is going to bring the fight to you. He's not going to stop coming forward, and you literally have to kill Trevor Peek to get him out of there. So unless Yanal Ashmouz puts Trevor Peek away, which I do not see him doing, I think Peek just puts the pressure on him the entire fight, keeps moving forward, and Trevor Peek is a guy that will take you down. I think he has a 50% takedown accuracy in the UFC. He has 4 UFC fights. And he's just going to keep coming at you like a zombie. He's going to keep fighting, keep going forward. He will mix in those takedowns, and I think that's going to be a good game plan for him against Trevor Peek. Chris Duncan, I believe, was Yanal Ashmouz's last fight. And yes, I know that Yanal broke his forearm, in the first round of that fight. But Chris Duncan set up a perfect game plan for Ashmouz's future opponents. If you press Ashmouz, if you push him up against the cage and you dictate the pace and put Ashmouz on his back foot, he doesn't fight as well. If you let Ashmouz dictate and kind of find his spots, find his shots on the feet, Ashmouz will find more success. Somebody like Trevor Peek will do exactly what Chris Duncan did to find success against Yanal. He's going to push the pace. Yanal doesn't like fighting on his back foot or doesn't like fighting with that pressure. And if Peek ends up taking the striking ability away from Yanal, aka by taking him down, I think that he gets it done. I honestly do. The more skillful fighter in this matchup is Yanal Ashmouz, but Trevor Peek is just an absolute dog, and you can never count him out. And because of not liking the pressure on the Yanal Ashmouz side, I think Peek is the perfect fighter to beat Yanal Ashmouz. So I'm going to pick Trevor Peek to get this done. Let's keep moving to a short notice replacement fight. Cody Durden steps in on short notice to take on Matt Schnell. Alessandro Costa is the original opponent for Matt Schnell, but he ended up withdrawing. And I didn't actually know that until I started making the graphics like an hour and a half ago or whatever amount of time it took me to do all these graphics. So thankfully, the person that replaced Alessandro Costa is Cody Durden, because I've broken down Cody Durden a bunch of times, not necessarily on YouTube. I think I've done it once or twice maybe now since I've made the channel. Maybe once when he fought Bruno Silva. But Matt Schnell cannot be trusted. The guy is a flyweight that gets consistently knocked out. I think he's been knocked out 5 times in his career. Yeah, he's been knocked out 5 times in his career. Twice in back-to-back fights. Yes, one by Steve Erceg last fight and one by Matthias Nicolau in the fight before that. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because Nicolau only has 5 career KOs out of 18 wins. So that's not good. But we all know what Matt Schnell is. Matt Schnell is just an absolute stud. He's going to come forward and just make an entertaining fight for the fans. It's basically what he is. And this fight may be a little easier for him in terms of the striking, because Cody Durden may not be as powerful as Alessandro Costa was, so maybe the chin issue on the Schnell side won't be as apparent here against Cody Durden. But that doesn't mean that Cody Durden's not going to hurt him. On the Cody Durden side, we all know this guy is extremely, just has the craziest pressure, and will consistently chain wrestle. He will shoot for takedowns for the entire 15 minutes, and he will not stop. And he's not those kind of guys to just take you down and control you. He is going to take you down, slam you on the ground, and just ground and pound you and try to hurt you. Try to lock up submissions. He's always looking to finish the fight. And in his last fight, people would be like, oh, but he got knocked out by Bruno Silva. Fair. He got rear naked choked by Tagir Ulanbekov. Fair. I picked against him both of those fights. But you cannot deny the fact that Durden is game. He's going to come forward, take you down, and try to ragdoll you, just try to maul you. And I think that's what he does to Matt Schnell. I know it's on short notice, but Durden's I feel like he's always training. He's got good cardio. And the one problem that I am worried about is Cody Durden's been submitted 4 times. And even though Matt Schnell is a banger on the feet, he has 9 career submission wins. Okay? The guy is actually a grappler, but he's not one of those nerds that is just going to pull guard. He has good jiu-jitsu only if the opponent takes it there, basically. Matt Schnell will stand and bang for the fight if he has to, and he probably will until Cody Durden goes for the takedowns. And the thing that worries me is that Matt Schnell has the ability to submit somebody like Durden, who has already been submitted 4 times in his career. All right? Did I say 5 times earlier? Guys, it's almost 3 in the morning. This breakdown isn't as good as I wanted it to be. But regardless, we're making the picks. We're breaking them down. Cody Durden is going to win this fight. Let's move on to the featured fight of the night. It is Kyle Nelson going up against Steve Garcia. And this is actually going to be should be a banger. Steve Garcia is on a 4-fight win streak. Not only is he on a 4-fight win streak, he is on a 4-fight KO streak. All right? The guy is knocking out everybody. He's got the death touch. He's got the touch of death in his hands. I don't know how it's possible to look the way he does and be as dangerous as he is. It's insane. He's going up against Kyle Nelson, who is having a career resurgence. He was 1-4-1 in the UFC 3 fights ago. Okay, 1-4-1. Beats Blake Builder, beats Fernando Padilla, and then standing TKOs, Bill Algeo on the feet. Some people say early stoppage. I say saving Algeo's brain, because nothing was going to change in that fight. Algeo was getting absolutely bombed on by Nelson. And I was actually going to pick Kyle Nelson in this fight because of how he's looked in his past 3 fights. But You just can't see this tear that Steve Garcia's on and feel comfortable about picking his opponent as the winner. This guy knocks out Chase Hooper, knocks out Shailin Nurdenbeke. Yes, he got knocked down in that fight, but that's one thing I like about Steve Garcia. He doesn't just get knocked down and quit. The guy is a dog. He gets knocked down and he comes back barking and knocking out his opponent. He knocks out Melquizael Costa in the second round after Costa hugged him for the entire first round. He didn't let that deter him. He just came out, you know what? I'm going to knock you out. Knocked him out. Knocked out Sung Woo Choi in his last fight. And yes, I understand it's Sung Woo Choi. He doesn't have a chin. Oh my God. Kyle Nelson has been knocked out twice in his career before. Once by Billy Quarantillo. This was back in 2020. And Diego Ferreira ground and pounded him in his UFC debut. So I'm not going to say that Nelson is chinny, but if Garcia lands on a 33-year-old Nelson, which he probably will, I think he puts him out. I was going to pick Kyle Nelson, but you can't. Garcia's, until I see this guy lose again, I'm just going to keep betting on him to KO his opponents. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, we got Jessica Andrade taking on Natalia Silva. We got the veteran going up against the new generation fighter. Jessica Andrade being only 32 years old is kind of insane because she's been in the UFC for so long. She has 38 career fights and 27 of them are in the UFC. She has fought literally anybody that's ever fought in the women's flyweight division, it feels like. The who's for sure. She is a former champion. She's fought and beaten other former champions. She lost to, yeah, dude, her losses are not, okay, let's minus the last 5, okay? She lost to Tatiana Suarez, who is undefeated, arguably next up to fight for the belt. Lost to Yan Xiaonan by first round KO, obviously not the best look. Lost to Aaron Blanchfield. She took that fight on short notice. Okay, she beats, and then her losses before that, Shevchenko, former champ. Rose Namajunas, former champ. Weili Zhang, former champ. Before that, Jurjacek, former champ. So she's a really good fighter. And I know she's only 32, but there's a lot of miles on her, and I think her chin is going, honestly, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. I think Natalia Silva is the much better fighter at this current stage of their career. And even though Jessica Andrade has bounced back kind of with back-to-back wins, Mackenzie Dern win, great. Knocked her out in the second round. But, dude, Mackenzie Dern can't strike. And I don't know if Dern was trying to make a point of trying to strike with Andrade, but anyway, and then beat Marina Rodriguez, which is impressive. Marina is like 37 years old at this point. Natalia Silva is a different beast. Andrade has that bully style, so like if Natalia just has to keep her range that she does pretty well anyway. She's got a nice bouncy in and out style that's going to be tough for Andrade to kind of find her timing and to get a hold of Silva if she decides to maybe clinch up and out muscle her in some positions, maybe take her down as well. I think Natalia Silva's got the perfect style of fighting to counter that bullying style of Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade likes to blitz forward and try to land heavily on her opponents, and I think somebody like Natalia Silva, who has fantastic striking, is going to let her come forward with those blitzes and just piece her apart, land some big shots. She has great movement to, once again, not allow Andrade to kind of bully her and outmuscle her in certain spots. I'm sure Andrade will get a hold of Silva at some point, but I do trust that for the majority of this fight, Natalia Silva is going to be piecing up Andrade, moving out of the way, staying safe, and honestly probably landing something big that probably hurts Andrade. And I wouldn't be surprised if Natalia Silva knocks out Jessica Andrade in this fight. And that is going to be my prediction, honestly. I just think at this point in their careers, Natalia Silva is the better fighter. She's going to stay safe. She's going to move on the outside, use that footwork, use that nice bouncy, constantly moving style to avoid any threat that Jessica has and just land some big shots. Let's move on to the main event of the evening. We got Gilbert Burns taking on Sean Brady. And I know there's a lot of people that are liking the Gilbert Burns side because it's Gilbert Burns. And everybody's like, oh, Sean Brady got TKO'd by Belal Muhammad. And I get it, all right? It's not the best look, but we got to look deeper into that, all right? There's some factors here. First of all, Belal is the champion. So is it really that awful to have your only loss in your professional career being to the current UFC champion? I don't think so. And another thing you have to keep in mind is, I don't know if you guys heard about what Sean Brady was saying, but apparently leading up to the fight, it was in Abu Dhabi, I believe. I'm going to double check so that I'm not just spitting out lies. UFC 280 Oliveira versus Makhachev in Abu Dhabi. Okay. He was getting like death threats from on his social medias, saying that if he doesn't throw the fight against Belal, that they're going to kill him and bury him in the desert. Okay? I don't know if nobody would be able to be in their right mind when they're fighting when all they can think about is that. All right? I'm not giving them excuse. Belal won. I'm not excusing that loss, especially not getting finished by Belal. I'm not excusing that. But a lot of people are putting a lot of weight on that loss and picking Gilbert Burns because of that. But they're also picking Gilbert Burns because Gilbert Burns is a savage. The guy gave Khamzat one of his hardest fights, and that's another thing that people are talking about. But, dude, this is a 38-year-old Gilbert Burns, okay? Yes, he's coming off of that loss to Jack Della Maddalena, but if you guys remember, he was beating JDM in that fight. JDM had a broken arm, I think, in that fight, so it's kind of crazy that he ended up getting the finish, but if that did last another minute and 17 seconds, Gilbert Burns probably wins a 29-28 unanimous decision. Before that, he lost to Belal, the current champion. Before that, beats Jorge Masvidal, great win. Beats Neil Magny, that's a solid win. Then loses to Khamzat. We're not going to blame him too much because he arguably won that fight. Guys, watch that back and tell me you can't make a case for Gilbert. Beats Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson, karate guy, just took him down. Before that, lost to Kamaru Usman, but he ended up dropping Usman out of that fight. So, like, there's a lot of things to like about Gilbert. He probably has the better striking in this matchup as well, and a lot of people want to talk about his grappling, but Sean Brady just has that smothering control of wrestling style where he's going to be able to find those takedowns, and he's kind of position over submission, but he has a fantastic way of putting people in those terrible spots. I think the age of these fighters is going to play a big factor. I think the other thing that's going to kind of worrying me a little bit is the fact that this is, I think, Sean Brady's first 5-round fight. So is he going to be able to withstand that, or is he going to be able to hold up that high wrestling pace that he usually does and the grappling and the control for 25 minutes if need be? I don't think it's going to go 25 minutes. This is going to be a wild thing to say because Gilbert Burns has never been submitted in his career. But I wouldn't doubt, I honestly wouldn't be completely shocked if Sean Brady finds a submission. Because he's going to land those takedowns. He's going to be probably the stronger fighter. He is definitely the younger the fighter. He should be the fresher fighter as well. But yeah, we have Sean Brady, 57% takedown accuracy, and Gilbert Burns has a 50% takedown defense. And let's be honest, he hasn't really fought anybody that's going to take him down. Belal Muhammad, I'm shocked, didn't want to wrestle with Burns, but maybe because he realized that Burns was injured in that fight or because Gilbert Burns has that grappling threat, Belal ended up piecing him up for that entire 25 minutes. Jack Della Maddalena is not going to wrestle with you. Jorge's not going to wrestle with you. Neil Magny typically wants to strike. Khamzat took him down twice. That's actually kind of solid. You lasted 15 minutes with Khamzat, nearly took you down twice. Solid. Stephen Thompson, not going to take you down. I'm shocked Usman didn't wrestle. Tyron Woodley That was like a back end Tyron Woodley. Damian Maia was able to take him down twice. So, like, I just don't see Gilbert staying on his feet for this whole fight. And if it does get down there, I don't see him getting back up. And, yeah, I'm going to be picking Sean Brady to get this done. And that's going to be the breakdown. This lasted way longer than I thought. It's 3 a.m. Let's finish this up and go through all of the picks for the UFC Vegas 97 card. We got Ramaska to start things off, Petroski, Jacqueline Amorim, Gabriel Santos, Andrade Lima, Isaac Dulgarian, Ryan Spann, Chris Padilla, Trevor Peek, Cody Durden, Steve Garcia, Natalia Silva, and Sean Brady. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter, Limpy with 2 Y's, Bets, Limpy Bets, because before the events, every single time for UFC and Dana White's Contender Series, I list out all of my picks for the entire card, and I also try to give out confidence levels. I break it down into high, moderate, and low confidence, and typically I parlay all the high confidence picks, and it hits at a decent rate. So make sure you guys do that. Like the video, comment down below your thoughts on this event and any particular matchups, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you guys again for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.